Let's see what we're going to start this out with. The frick? I get my own round of applause, I guess. All right, George, you still out there? All right, so Dr. Tom Bilella, you probably know who the heck I am if you're on the call. So I'm going to do what I said I'm going to do, and that's basically get right into the questions. So here we are, and then we'll definitely do Q&A during and afterwards. Real quick, Stephanie, we recording? Nice, I think we're recording. All right, first question comes from a David. It says, hey, Dr. Tom, I'm looking to get my hormone levels tested, testosterone and pregnenolone, if insurance will cover. Which test specifically would I want to have done? I'm a 34-year-old man who's been an athlete my whole life. Okay, so I love this question because we know the importance of hormones with respect to your vitality, your energy, and with respect to your metabolism, whether it be losing fat or putting on muscle. It's not a math equation. It's not calories in, calories out, despite what people think or you've been taught. It's more about your thermostat. And when I say your thermostat, it's how you're burning your fuel and your hormonal balance. And testosterone is key. So I like to check testosterone, free testosterone, DHEA sulfate, DHT, and estradiol. Okay? Those are the key. You could also sometimes do androstenedione, right? So those are key hormones to check. Testosterone, free testosterone. You can do sex hormone binding globulin. That'll tell you how much is free. Estradiol, DHA sulfate, and DHT. Now, what's super cool now, we have the Dutch test available, which is dried urine test for comprehensive hormones, which is a urine test, which makes that super duper convenient. But that's critically important to check these, and you should check them even if you're young, 30 years old. Figure out where your baseline is. And then, of course, you just don't want to listen to most clinicians who, if it's 300 to 1100 your testosterone, you're 400, and you have low testosterone symptoms, doesn't mean your testosterone's okay. So those are my recommendations for testing for hormones on blood. So anybody else have a question on that? Any follow-up on that? Yeah, totally. And I don't know if the word is ask your doctor to do these tests. It might be insist. And you might have to insist, go, doc, I really would like to, check my hormones. I'm not feeling great. You just tell them some of your symptoms and just insist that they do it. See, what they're not up on, they're down on. So some doctors are reluctant to do the test because they don't know what to do with it. But just insist. And after insisting, if they don't do it, guess what you do? You get a new doctor, or you go outside the box and you do like a Dutch test, right? Good. Yeah, DOs tend to be more open than MDs as a general rule. You know what I mean? All right, good. Any other follow-up on that? Okay. But let me just kind of talk about this. So again, you want your numbers to be, your free testosterone to be middle quartile or higher. DHEA sulfate is so darn important for fat burning and mood and energy. And some research equates DHA sulfate levels in your blood to longevity. Kind of a big deal, right? And so those are important, man. So that's a perfect question. Thanks for that question. Let's go to Ben. What are your top tips for client compliance, and how do you know when people are truly ready to make the change? So I'm assuming Ben is in the coaching business, maybe personal trainer. Top tips for client compliance. I'll give you the most important tip, and this comes from Paul Reddick, the Wolf, who did an episode or two actually with Joe DeFranco on the Industrial Strength podcast. It's simply the 5, 6, 7 or the powerful why. So in a simplistic version, if someone says, hey, Ben, I want to lose body fat. You might want to say, well, how much fat do you want to lose? Okay, write it down. What have you tried that hasn't worked up until now? Get some information on that. This way you're getting the client to understand past from potential future. What time frame would you be committed to losing that body fat of 25 pounds? you got to check their reality here with respect to a realistic goal, because everyone has ADD. Everyone's impatient. Most people are impatient when it comes to changing their body comp. Most people don't realize you need to be methodical and consistent with your program to get there, with respect to permanent weight loss. But back to the real question is, well, why do you want to lose fat? Or what's so important about losing 25 pounds? You write it down. I want to look better. What's important about looking better? I want to feel better. What's important about feeling better? My self-image. Perfect. Improved self-image. When you have an improved self-image, Mr. Jones, how does that make you feel? Happy. Great. Happy. So when you're happy, who benefits? How does it change things? Oh, my family's happier. I'm happier. We do things. You're more fun. Perfect. So having fun with your family, is that important to you? Absolutely. So it's really not just about feeling better. It's about you and your family. So I did a crash course there on what Paul Reddick calls the 5, 6, 7. But if you watch or listen to the Industrial Strength podcast with Paul Reddick, he did it to Joe. And Joe's Powerful Wire 5, 6, 7 is really for his family. Joe works so darn hard. Main reason is he wants to create a great place for his family, financially and other ways. And he wants to leave a legacy. And he wants to be authentic. So that's my best tip for that. Anybody have any follow-up questions on how do you know when someone's ready to change? Okay. So I think that's really important, and do it with yourself too. If you find that you are always starting over with your program, sit down. Why is this important? And make a note of that. And I even go back to when I was younger, 30, and I did a bodybuilding show. One of my main goals at the time, I knew it would help my career. If I were to walk the talk, so to speak, and do a natural bodybuilding show. I was a chiropractor and nutritionist at the time. And I knew, there was many reasons why I did it, but I knew if I did the show and did it well and committed to it and got lean and took pictures and maybe won the show, I go, boy, this will be a real shot in the arm for my professional career, and that's going to help me immensely. And it kind of did. So there could be many reasons why you want to accomplish your goal. So that's that. Excellent question. Chris, I've been taking badass branched chains for a few months, noticing good results, ! I did have a question because a study came out linking branched chain amino acids to ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, in some Italian soccer players. Just wanted if you could address this. I think it's a stretch, he says. So I looked at the study, it was PubMed, and basically what they found in this small group, taking the branched chains, certain amino acids in the branched chains were affecting a certain pathway in the nervous system that was more of an inflammatory pathway, the excitatory neurotransmitters, and they're equating possibly this is a causative factor for ALS. As Chris says in the email, is it a stretch? Perhaps. Is it causative? Is it associative? It's hard to say. So I'm literally drinking my branched chains now after I read the study. So I'm certainly not worried about ALS. But ALS is a big problem. It's been diagnosed 150, 160 years. They first wrote about ALS, which is a progressive nervous system, central nervous system issue, obviously. So I don't know, but I'm taking my branched chains. And again, for me, it's all about purity of the product. No artificial sweeteners, no artificial colors, no red dye, no blue dye. It's going to make it dye. So our stuff is super clean without the artificial sweeteners. Doesn't taste as good as other stuff because it doesn't have the artificial sweeteners. All right. Anybody have any follow-up questions on that? Great. Hi, Triple M. Yes, I'm working on a potential new nickname, the Metabolic Macro Man. But that's the third reference to that in 6 weeks, so maybe I'll go there. Metabolic Macro Man. Because I think I know what I'm doing with macros and metabolism. I don't know if you picked up on that. Thanks for taking the time to do this. My main focus now is hormone optimization. What foods do you recommend avoiding? What are your key foods for testosterone optimization and thyroid, DHA, and pregnenolone? Are there any other supplements, staples you recommend for hormone optimization? Perfect question. Thank you, Chris, for the triple M reference. All right. First thing you got to do is stay away from soy, especially in this country. You know, soy can be estrogenic-like. You also have to be careful of endocrine disruptors like BPA, plastics. So those are biggies. Be careful of ingesting crappy chicken. That's usually loaded with estrogen to make these chickens grow. So looking at the food from that standpoint is critically important. Free range, organic, best you can. So I think that's really, really important. As far as foods that boost testosterone, I don't really know of any foods that have been shown to definitely boost testosterone. We know there's certain nutrients like vitamin D and zinc play a role. Of course, your training is important with hormone optimization. As far as foods for the thyroid, really one main food is something that has high levels of iodine. I do a sea kelp seasoning. I just put in my eggs before. There are sea kelp granules. So we know that kelp, the sea vegetable, has a lot of micronutrients and has iodine, which is really good for the thyroid. Some people have autoimmune thyroid disease, so you have to be careful of iodine. But as a general rule, I get my iodine from my multi and my sea kelp granules. So again, DHA and pregnenolone. I think what you really need to focus on here, optimizing hormones naturally, is inflammation. It's quenching inflammation. Okay, if someone's hit me in the head with a baseball bat, I can put a helmet on, or I'd rather get the bat out of the dude's hand. So, sometimes we're hitting ourselves in the head with a bat, our workouts are too intense, we're not getting enough sleep. So the inflammation cascade is really important for your DHA to DHA sulfate conversion. You want DHA sulfate. The inflammation is really, really important for T4 to T3 thyroid conversion. Inflammation can jack up reverse T3, which is the biologically inactive form of T3, which reduces your T3 effectiveness because it'll plug into that receptor site. The reverse T3 is like a brake pedal. So it can put important blood parameters, your free T3, reverse T3 ratio. You want that 2 to 1 or higher. Back to the point. So iodine foods, as a general rule, for your thyroid. And some say that goitrogenic foods, you have to be careful, like your broccoli and cabbage. Soy is not good for the thyroid. Soy is not good for your testosterone. Watch these additives and colorings and endocrine hormone disruptors. They're called POPs, persistent organic pollutants. So these things you really have to watch. It is a great question. Now, supplementation for testosterone, taking pregnenolone and DHA can definitely help the pathway. ZMA has been shown in some people to improve testosterone. Maca root, velvet deer antler, has been shown to sometimes help increase testosterone. I use a product called B Vital here at my clinic. But listen, sleeping, stress reduction, post-workout parasympathetic improvement, box breathing. Posture is important. Oh, cell phone posture. I was at a seminar about 2 months ago. They talked about how cell phone posture reduces testosterone. And I do see millennials and young men coming here at 28 years old and their testosterone's low. It's not the only reason because of the cell phone, but this is not good posture for hormone optimization. Boom, boom. Good. All right, any follow-up questions on that? DeFranco Nation out there. Yeah, the question is there any validity to raising cholesterol level in your blood to start that conversion pathway? Perfect question. So cholesterol is taken in at the mitochondria. Every cell is a mitochondria, except for red blood cells. And the mitochondria is responsible for converting cholesterol and pregnenolone. So I don't know well, the answer is yes, because we do know that sometimes a good way to raise testosterone is eating more fat. So sometimes the answer is yes, like egg yolks, okay? More of a concern if your testosterone is below 150, serum cholesterol below 150, I believe studies can show, and I think I see it here, can have a detrimental effect on your total testosterone. Does that make sense? Yeah, so, cholesterol 150 to 200, safe. It used to be up to 240. But it's a good question. If you're taking medications that reduce cholesterol, like statin drugs, exactly. And is there a direct correlation between statin drugs and low testosterone? Yeah, check the research. Okay? That's a really good follow-up question. Perfect. Any other questions? Good. We'll go to the next one, man. I'm going in order. Okay, that one is asking about Joe DeFranco's Operation Rebuild Joe D and changes in his supplementation and program. Obviously, that's private. Maybe in the next podcast we'll broach that, but he's still doing well. He still looks well. And I think he listens to me most days except for the sleep. Bastard. Freaking guy doesn't sleep. It's unbelievable. Hey, George, I got a question. I've been listening to the podcast. I'm 51 years old. I want to complete, what was that, the DeFranco Fat Bastard Contest, George? Is that what you're saying? Okay. And you're working all right, you're working, top 20 is perfect. You're working your tail off 68 hours a week. How do I finish this strong, how do I get to the finish line of this strong bastard? All right. So George, we were talking earlier, you're 51 years young. You're keeping up, people can't hang with you. Listen. Right now, you have to look at your most important goals in life, George, right? Are you married with kids or single? All right, so you're like a real guy. You have a wife, you have children, you're planning a wedding for your daughter, and you're probably putting out some good money for that, correct? Don't answer that question. I don't want to raise your cortisol. Okay. Thank you. You know this, my daughter's 10. No, I don't. It's all about balance, right? First of all, I'll start by saying the final 20% of perfectionism is self-destruction. Okay? Right? You got to keep it all in balance, especially us 50-year-olds. Now, I'm all about completing what you start no matter what. Okay? What I'm alluding to, George, here is, I don't know if you want to emphasize too much that you have to train this amount of time per day. I can't ever miss a meal because you're not going to beat someone probably who's 30 who just is by himself. They have more time for themselves, right, George? You think? So they have a hormonal advantage. They have a time advantage. The bottom line is this, is when people set out to do a marathon, very few are setting out to win the marathon. They just want to they just want to complete the race. And they want to finish what they started. So my advice is, when it makes sense, finish what you started. Be the best you can. But there's going to be some times, like a baseball game, you can lose an inning and win the game. If you only got 4 hours sleep and you're supposed to do leg day that next day, you might want to change leg day or just make it a rest day or active recovery day. So that's how I think, how I coach my clients, especially my baby boomers, those over 50. You got to fit it all in. It's all about balance. How's that? But you're a winner, man. You're a winner. Great question, man. I love it. All right. This is from Jonathan. What's your opinion on eggs in general? Meaning, assuming you have no food allergy and whatnot. Are they good? Are they bad? How many eggs per day is okay? Seems like there's two camps. Some people say eggs are good, no good, Okay, he eats 4 to 6 eggs a day, 4 to 5 days a week, but he's a little concerned about his egg intake. Thanks for the good work. I love the Joe DeFranco whey protein. Beautiful. It's a great product, probably the best value on the market, the whey protein. But anyway, eggs, the perfect food. You can grow a whole chicken. Extra large eggs, 7 grams of protein, 6 grams of fat. Free range organic. To me, the only consideration, as you mentioned, with egg intake, number 1, is food sensitivity, food allergy. The MRT test and other food sensitivity tests can determine that. Number 2, potentially too much fat. If you're doing 6 eggs. 4 eggs, 24 grams of fat, you might be able to handle that. All right, now, another consideration is cholesterol. cholesterol. So with respect to that, there are some people genetically who will eat cholesterol foods like eggs and raise their cholesterol. There's actually blood tests that can determine that. But the research is pretty clear. For most people, ingesting cholesterol will only have a 3 to 10% effect on their serum cholesterol. I just ate my eggs, 4 eggs. I've been doing eggs like a madman for 40 some years. Okay, when I was training hard, I would start the day with 10 eggs, 8 eggs, whites, 2 yolks, and end the day with 8 egg whites and 1 or 2 yolks. So I was going through 2 dozen eggs a day for 6 months. Okay, my cholesterol levels were great. I got lean, did a show, whatever. So that's my opinion of the incredible edible egg that's been maligned for a few years now, but it's making a comeback. And you know, the chicken is God's second greatest gift to man. Did you know that? George, did you know that? You out there? Yeah, so if the chicken is God's second greatest gift to man, what's the first greatest gift? No, chicken's number 2. It's the woman. Hello? What the heck's wrong with you guys? You guys are Nimrods. The second greatest gift is the chicken. The first greatest gift to man is the woman. Look it up. Look it up. Adam and Eve, look it up. All right. Do what you want. You don't have to look it up if you don't want. All right, Dr. Tom, I greatly appreciate the content you're putting out lately. One question for you. Would you recommend replacing lost calories after a workout in addition to the daily intake of calories? If your program suggests consuming 3,000 calories a day and then you burn 500 calories at your workout, should you eat the extra 500 calories, boom, to make up for the lost exercise calories? Great question. Typically, no. When I do personally a macro program for somebody, of course, how much they're exercising is a big part of the equation. I start with that. How often are you exercising? You know, when I'm redoing my macro profile plan, so this is a 1-page questionnaire that I'll make available on our social media. I got to update it to really give you a sense if you're like protein type, carb type, or a mixed type. All right? Based on certain genetic factors, exercise factors. But back to the question. As a general rule, no. If I put someone on a 3,000 calorie program, you work out, you work out. Now, do I pay particular attention to nutrient timing? Always. The energy phase, the anabolic phase, I got the book there, and the growth phase. So the energy phase starts 10 minutes before the workout. A way of thinking about that is 15W30. Call it 15W30. Your workout, 30W15. I reverse it, 30W15. Your workout starts 30 minutes before you hit the gym. Consuming water, maybe pre-exercise snack. Then right before the gym, you might start sipping your branched chains or glucose electrolyte solution, or you mix them both together. I do a glucose electrolyte solution, Endura, and my badass branched chains, and I sip that during the workout. Post-workout, especially if I'm trying to put on lean body mass, I'm gonna do a post-workout shake with a certain ratio of carbs to protein based on my goals and my body type. Back in the day, I would do a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio of carbs to protein. I don't have that insulin sensitivity anymore. So I might go 2-to-1, all depends on what my goals are. So I do not add the calories because you lost them, but we're doing nutrient timing. Now, kind of the question is, it's a beautiful question. When I have the client or athlete sip during the workout, so let's say the Endura is 30 grams of carbohydrate, that's 120 calories. I usually count those as free calories. But I don't do the subtraction game. How many calories did I burn? Add those back. So, any follow-up question on that? That's a great question. Good. We handled the top questions on this call, and we did it in about 30 minutes, which is super cool. Anybody out there in the line have any additional questions? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the question is, yeah. So when we're running the testosterone and we're running the DHEA sulfate, we're running these other factors. Yeah. So free testosterone, if the range is say 3 to 15, I want you at least a 9. If it's a 9, so if it's say 3 to 15, I shoot for about a 9. 15 minus 3 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 plus 3 is 9. What I just do, if the range is 3 to 15, 9's the middle, the median. So minimally, I want it over 9. Now, the age of the client also plays a role. If it's a 35-year-old dude, I'm like, man, you should be a 10 or a 12. Now, you also have to keep in consideration, your testosterone, serum testosterone level is important. But your symptoms are important too. I've had people who are like maybe a little lower than midline, but they felt great, they looked great, their muscle mass was great. So you have to put it all into context. But for us guys over 50, over 9 is the key. Now, DHEA sulfate, very important. Let's say the range is 50 to 450. I like over 300. Okay? So I like it to be closer to the top third of the range. And the research backs me up on this with respect to anti-aging, fat-burning, brain function. DHEA sulfate. Pregnenolone is difficult to determine via blood. That's better off with saliva or really saliva. Pregnenolone. Estradiol. Estradiol, let's say the range is 0 to 40. I usually like 25 or below. So that's a really great question. Thank you. What else we got? I think we did it. All right. All right. I like to, emphasize a minute. Yo. Tell me, baby. Uh-oh. You there? I think I lost you. Well, what I tried to do out there in video world was put him on speakerphone, and I lost him. So I think that was George. So George, you can listen back or get back on here. But he was basically saying that his pregnenolone, he didn't know anything about pregnenolone. We said, hey, get on pregnenolone, and he did. He's 50 years old, and he's a brand new person because he's on pregnenolone. He's going to tell me his energy is better. He's certainly feeling better. So that's like great news. So that's it. So Dr. Tom Bilella, one of our calls here, answering questions from mainly the Franco Nation, but anyone who's following me on social media. Hope this was helpful. Hope to hear you soon on social media or on our next live Facebook. Thanks for watching.